Delighted to be here. I'd like to thank Pat for asking me. I know you've been enthralled all day by the intricacies and the little things that you've learned, and the drills, and the top class coaches that have been here all day. I'm on at the end of the day. I'm glad. I was looking bad for a while, but the bingo hall is filling up. And I'm going to try and maybe just be general, not be too specific on the coaching. My brief is to talk about building on the platform maybe that an awful lot of you guys are doing. And I suppose I was manager at nine years at inter-county level, and I'm back now involved at underage again. So maybe to talk a bit about the type of guy you'd ideally like to have coming onto your senior setup so that he can develop into an adult player for a long time at whatever level. And that's me brief, so I'm going to try and stay to that and not delay you too long. About an hour and 3/4 should be on the M50, okay? Ross Dunphy was our physical trainer with the Dubs for the last 2 years. He's head of physical education in the Curragh, top class guy. And a few months ago he got this notion that I might be able to motivate Army Rangers down in the Curragh in a small, not as fancy room as this. And I'll tell you, these lads were veterans of the Congo, the Lebanon, Chad. There's about 16 of them, and looking up at me, and all 400 or 500 or whatever's here is an awful lot handier, I can guarantee you. Because there was a lad there with a beard, and I still wake up in the middle of the night, certainly after the Christmas, while sleep was a bit of a struggle. I saw him most nights around the 1st, 2nd and 3rd of January. So if I got over that, I think we'll manage to get over today and give it our best shot. From my point of view, coaches are lucky. I've been very lucky as a coach to inherit some unbelievable talent. I could have picked 20 guys maybe to be up there from my time with Clare, my time with Dublin, and my time at Clarecastle, and my time at Kilmiley. Indeed, you know, I could have had Shane Brick up there, one of the greatest players I've ever seen, Shane Brick, Kilmiley and Kerry. But just picked out a few. You'll know them, most of them anyway. You'll probably know them. All-Ireland winning captain from last year, Pat Donlan. I had him in just out of minor, and it took him a while to settle. But once he settled, what a leader and what an inspiration for Clare people. Peter Kelly started off as a wing forward, aged 18 for Dublin, and I got him in the following year, I think, and I wound up making him a full back. Whether that's good coaching or not, I don't know. But a brilliant guy. Mr. Rush, who's modelling for Under Armour in the picture. I'm probably getting paid more than any of us. Fantastic guy, double All-Star for Dublin. A dream to deal with, even though for the 6 years I had him, I'll put it this way, he's finally working this year. Maybe it's a sign of where I was at. He was in college, but talk about managing the balance between college and playing inter-county level. There was no better man than that. Mr. Sutcliffe is modelling there for Louis Copeland, I'd say, by the looks of it. But again, an incredible young lad. Came in down in Thurles in a practice match before we played an All-Ireland quarter-final just out of minor, and got a looter of a tackle from Conor McCormack in the match. And Conal Keeney, Conor's clubmate, went to defend him, and he shoved Keeney away, aged 18 1/4, and said, "I'll fight my own battles." And I turned to Richie Stacklem and I said, "We have a good one on our hands here." And he's going on to be, I think he'll be one of the major talents for the rest of the decade and on from that. He's a super guy. And a guy that some of you might not know well, although I see a massive Clare contingent here, and they'll know him well. And I never coached him at inter-county level, but I had the privilege of doing a little bit with him when he was younger, 12 or 14. But for 2 years at minor level, Bobby Duggan, who was a star in his first year under 21 for the Clare 21s. And again, whoever dealt with him in Clarecastle, I could say for sure they did a fantastic job. And for Davy Fitzgerald now, and for Donald Maloney and Jerry O'Connor and Shawnee McMahon as well this year, to be inheriting a guy like that, you have no worries there. They will do everything you want. So that's the dream sort of scenario. those 5, I guess, and I could have picked many more, but I would say that that's the privileged position I've been in, to work with some lads like that. They won't all be of that standard, and we've got to work with whatever we have, but that's how lucky I've been, and I just thought I'd just pick out a few of them to talk about it. Values are something I'd be very strong on. If we can, there's an awful lot we can do, and we can be caught up on so many things. But I think if you can instill some of this stuff into the guys and girls, and I'm sorry if I'm getting a bit hurling specific, I don't mean to be, because it's all general, okay? So it applies to all our 5 sports, including handball, everything. I'm not going to talk about anything specific in terms of skills or anything like that, okay? I just think values, to try and instill those in, these are my few. There's loads more that you'll have in your own head. Hundreds of them maybe. There are a few I just thought were important to me. The love of the jersey and the love of the club, I suppose, that you're playing with. I think very important. When I was a minor, Michael Slattery was our coach, refereed the All-Ireland final in 1973, great coach, did an awful lot for us as young lads. But I remember him telling us one night that we were sired to wear the black and white. Sometimes now, I'd look at our under-13s, the mother from Cork, the father from Derry, definitely not sired to wear the black and white, but the Owlet is working in Shannon, and we're up the motorway. So I suppose those days are gone where we had no choice but to be engrossed in Clarecastle and to hopefully make it for Clare. That was our dream. We've got to instill that now, I guess, and it's a task. That willingness to practice, I think, is massive. The quote about Henry hitting 400 balls a day for 15 years. I think he said it himself. I think we can take him on his word. I'd say I hit more than 400 a day for 15 years. I needed to. But no day did I come home from Flannan's on the bike at lunchtime, wolf down the dinner and get out for 20 minutes and get back up the road. And if we ever had a free class, we'd be scooting out to the alleys, hurling again. And after school, homework, bit of a priority, not the greatest one. But I think if we can help them to think that it's not just about coming to the field Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, that's the bit they do on their own really makes them players. And I think we all know that. Even if there was tennis courts at the back of our house, and there was a match almost every evening after national school. And at this stage, our neighbour, Gerard the Sparrow O'Loughlin, was king of the castle, 3 years older than us, and he just bait us around the place. But it stood to us. And I think that was something that we had, but now we have to maybe instill. I see my own girls at home, it's straight for the phone, it's straight onto Facebook, it's all that. Responsibility. There's a whole range of stuff we could talk about on responsibility. I think one of the things, I suppose, that originally came from the All Blacks, we all know that, but I think they stay outside in the Castleknock Hotel, and even the chambermaids have commented in the mornings how they can't believe going into their rooms. The rooms don't even need cleaning. A rub of a hoover. The beds are made. They live by those standards. They play by those standards. And I've just started with Limerick, and we played a match on Tuesday night against UL Freshers. Got a good hiding as well, which is probably no harm. But St. Pat's were good enough because there was a big crowd to let us tug out in the clubhouse. And we were finishing up. I just stopped the whole thing. I said, hang on lads, will you take one look around the room? Because there was soup and a few rolls for lads. And there was more wrappers. And I just think the Dublin seniors, the one thing, and Ray Finn, our kit man, mighty man from Whitehall, probably gave me a bigger insight into this than the All Blacks ever did. And everywhere we went in the country, National League, they might beat us 15 points, but by God, we left them a clean dressing room. But you know what? We went back the following year, and the groundsmen who you get familiar with when you're involved at that level for a while, they'd come up and shake your hand and say, look, no other county team that came here left the place like he did. I think it's something we can instill. And I think pitch cleanliness as well. Of course we should be instilling that. Why should somebody be picking up cones when lads are passing out cones? Lads driving the ball away. When you know when you're going to go on to the next drill or the next game, and they all have a shot for a pint. Look, there's loads of time for that. I think we should instill that. If if we can have that effect, lads will do their own thing, I understand that, and girls will do their own thing. If we can instill a bit of that. And I'd even put it on to stretching, and I know the strength and conditioning people in the room will probably say, no, that's my business. I think if we can, not everyone's going to have access to a strength and conditioning coach at under 14, 16, a minor level. So somebody's going to have to do the stretching, and I'm only watching what's going on over the years and doing my best. So I'd like players to be able to, after a while, from 15, 16 up, I see no reason why you shouldn't be able to say, Mary, Johnny, you take the stretch. If it's not been done 100% to your liking, you can always add on a bit. But I think getting them to take that responsibility will help you going forward and will help them going forward, because by the time they're minors, shoving on to 21s, that's just second nature. That's in the subconscious. They don't have to think about it even. The last thing, and I just put in this because when you went up to Flannan's after Clarecastle minor training and were told to shut your mouth at Clarecastle minor training to the Newmarket fellas and the Air fellas, you did. Now, I suppose we live in a different world. And I think a massive thing is like to keep the inside in. And if we could teach them that, not getting too heavy about it at the younger ages, obviously. But I just feel that sometimes now in the world we live in, we're nearly too loose on all our interactions. Everybody knows what everybody is doing. And if you could just get your squad to buy into that, just that little bit, not too heavy if they're younger, obviously. They're going home telling Mammy and Daddy go to work to volunteer. They'll tell, you know what the boys are doing tomorrow night, Look I understand that. But just, if we could, when we're hitting 15, 16, I think, to ask them to take that on board. Their values that we can impart, we'll make desperate mistakes. I'm the king of making mistakes up here, the king of a disaster of making mistakes. But all we can do is try and learn from our mistakes, move on, and be better people going forward. 2.5 years ago, this was me. No, that was me. Not proud of it. I'll turn it off quick. That's the reality. Let the heart or the right-hand side of the brain completely rule the head in a split second. And I'll tell you, if I could have taken the moment back for my 3 kids coming home from school the following day, asking me why was I on the front page of the Independent when there was 19 people killed in a hurricane in New York, I would have taken it back. But all we could do was sit down those bunch of boys about 3 weeks later when everything had died down, apologise to them sincerely, to bring that message home that we were so sorry and we were wrong. Poor old Niall Romer wasn't wrong, he was often wrong. Same lad, but he wasn't wrong on this occasion. We were wrong. And we admitted, held our hands up, and we promised if they'd stay with us, we'd try and put it right the following year. And we did. And it's only a coincidence we won the minor championship. That had nothing got to do with it. But our behaviour was way better the following year. And that's the values, I suppose, that we'd be trying to teach them. And that's just something that happened in my life that was a significant learning point for me. Absolutely ridiculous. Let down myself, my family and my club, and hurling and the GAA in general. And I'm not proud of it, and it happened though, and we'll all make mistakes. You can either live with that and resign and never do anything again for your club, or you can say, I'm going to learn and be better. Coaches, good coaches, what are they? I don't know, sure. But the amount of lads that I played with, that I've trained with for 20 years or more, and they tell me, oh Jesus, I couldn't do the coaching, I'll be a selector. Jesus, you do the drills there, will you? And I said, did we not do the same drills for 20 years, the two of us? And they just have this in their head, they can't do it. Lads, it's simple stuff. You did it most of your life. If you never did it, it's simple. There's so much stuff available now through here. Ger O'Connor and the Dublin County Board has books that are amazing. There's so much stuff on the internet. The great Peter Casey's out there somewhere from North Clare fame. Sent me stuff that he writes in the Clare Champion himself and Ronan Keane every week, Coaching Corner. He emailed me that the other day. I've already emailed to Hedjo. You'll remember Hedjo, the baldy fella that just be alongside me that just go mad in the line for Dublin. Mad fella that, very bad, very bad. There's loads of stuff out there, lads, and it's easy. Upskill yourself, and you're saying, why are you here? You're here to upskill yourself. You're the guys that have decided to upskill yourself. I see Sonia out there, a hero of us all, and maybe the cynic at home tonight said, what year did she win in All-Ireland? But we know in this room we can learn so much from one of our greatest athletes ever, of good practice, of being a champion, of thinking like a champion, and that's why we are here. Last Saturday morning I took my first session with the Limerick Miners. Sorry now for the Clare people out there, I understand. But as we finished, I noticed all these maroon and white jerseys heading over to the grass pitch. We were on the Astro. We were finished. There was no grub. There was grub today now. Things are looking up. But there was the Galway seniors hitting out onto the field. And I just sneakily parked my car and watched John Kenning. He's in a cast afterwards. And all the rest. And I sat there for 3/4 of an hour. I don't think I learned anything that was completely new to me, but I learned different ways of doing drills. I watched Eugene Cloonan, who was taking the session at that stage, and I learned stuff. And I had my notebook in front of me, and I took it down. And it's easy. And I don't know what Ger Cunningham is operating like, but for 6 years I was in Dublin, the gates were never locked, because no one turned up anyway. But we were there every night. Tommy Dunn was the coach for the last 2 years, and is again this year, and is one of the best I ever came across. So I just think it's easy. There's loads of opportunities there for us. And we should take it on board, and we should go after it, because it is there for us. And let's not use the excuse that, like, anyone that's here from Clare or Limerick, anywhere near me, I'll sit down with them any day, I promise you that, and do drills or do game-based training or whatever I want to do. I have a book full of stuff, and you might have more than me, and I'd say lots of people in this room have loads more than me. So I'd say that's a massive thing. Even if it goes wrong on you, and you've the under-15s, and the game you're doing, the little mini game or the little mini drill, what's a game? One-on-one is a game, to my opinion. Even if it doesn't work out for you, I guarantee you, they're clever enough. While there might be a few smart alecks, and there might be a bit of a laugh, they're clever enough going home that they'll know you're trying to do better for them, for certain. I'd be fairly certain of that. My own girls are 16, 14, and 11, and they're complaining about running laps, you know. And my first session with Limerick last Saturday, the first thing Una asked me when I went home was, "How many laps did you do, Dad?" And I said, "None." "What are you doing for an hour and a half inside Newell?" She said. "She's running laps. I don't think she should be running laps, maybe with a ball." So I think the willingness to do it. Get past that fast. Okay, there was meant to be a little slide in there now. We got to make cross wires there somewhere, but it's easy. Just before that, I meant to say, lads, we dismiss no one, right? We were training for the minor final in 2013. Revenge for Skibbereen against Kinmaley. And it was hot and heavy down the pitch, and everyone was serious about it. And there's this lad, he wasn't the fittest, he wasn't the best hurler, he probably wasn't the bottom 1 or 2 hurling wise. And he messed up 1 or 2 drills, and my co-trainer and myself were together, and he was driving your man a bit mad that he was slowing down the session. And I said, "Jesus, hang on there, leave him alone." I says, "That fella could be chairman of the club for 10 years. You know, and I think it's a massive thing that we dismiss no one. We keep everybody on board because they're part of that club. I think we've a new executive in Clarecastle this year. I'm not sure that any of them play too much senior. That fair, Boots? Fair enough. Chairman, secretary, treasurer didn't play too much senior. Are they massive clubmen? Are they better clubmen than me? By God, they are. So we dismiss nobody. The odd time you can dismiss, if he's shoving on a bit, you can dismiss people. The older folk among us, for 6 marks, who's that tackling Billy Byrne? No one from Kilkenny needs to go to these things. Come on, there must be 2 of you here. I think it's Liam Simpson, is it? Pat O'Neill? Never the nail, is it? Could be down. Jeez, I played in Ireland colleges against Pat O'Neill. Oh, yeah. And Brian Ryan, he's out there somewhere, I'd say. When I met John Costello, Jerry Harrington and Mike Connolly over in Killaloe to know what I consider getting involved with Dublin, we met and we chatted, and Mike showed me all about the structures on the laptop and everything else, and then we got down to nitty gritty, I suppose, of look, what are you looking for here? What are your ambitions here? Like, what is in All-Ireland a real ambition here from where you're coming from? And we discussed all that, and I was happy with them and they were happy with me. And John says to me, Jesus, Anto, what about the driving? And I said, John, my last job, I went by boat to Kilmiley in Kerry. Shannon ferries from Killimer to Tarbert, 20 minutes. The greatest 20 minutes you'll put down in the day with a cup of coffee and writing out your session and watching the dolphins. And the only problem is the Shannon ferry stops the late boat when the Listowel races are over. So you're a mile from Clare, but you have a 2.5 hour drive back to West Clare. Not funny. But what I used to find with Kilmiley, the standard was Kilmiley, a great club, fantastic club, part of Kerry really trying to develop as a hurling county in hard circumstances, really only 8 clubs, even though the lads are doing massive work in Tralee, trying to get Tralee Parnells up and running, and that would be a massive boost to them. But the odd time I used to find not so much lads from Limerick, Cork or Clare, because they were used to playing challenge matches against the Kerry teams and they knew they were tough, number one, and they knew there was a fair standard. There was a fair standard. I could definitely say the 2 bricks, Tom Murnane, would have played for most counties while I was with Kilmiley. They were that good. But the odd lad I used to find from Kilkenny, Offaly, Wexford, Dublin. Now they got the odd gem. Liam Walsh, great Dublin hurler, fantastic Dublin hurler. Met Dave Sweeney earlier, played with him. Kilmiley got Liam Walsh and he won a championship nearly for them, centre back in 2002. But you'd get some amount of, no offence now to the audience out there, male nurses, teachers and guards thinking they were from Offaly, Kilkenny or Wexford or Dublin, and to be no bother to hurl down here. And this lad arrived one night famously with a black togs, a Wexford jersey, pair of socks, and the boots were as old as me anyway, and he was about 34. And he kept coming, fair play to him, but the one constant with him was he used to leave on his watch in training, this digital watch. Now, to say he was putrid, it'd be kind to him. He couldn't rise the ball, but he figured this Kerry hurling was going to be cat. So one night, Maurice Murnane, 4 Murnane brothers, Hardy boys, who played for Kilmiley, said to me, Jesus Daly, would you do me one favour? Would you lay me out of Billy Burns drills or lines? He says, I'm trying to improve and I'm way off the pace. He says, and your man is killing me. So I decided we had to get rid of Billy. He was togging out for every senior game, and he was getting no run, but getting no message either. So there was backs and forwards anyway in Lerrig. Kilmiley is sort of between Ardfert and Ballyhigh, middle of nowhere really, pub, church and the field, but some club. So I put Billy, not that Billy obviously, our Billy, I put him in on the youngest of the Murnanes, Shawnee, the baby-faced assassin I used to call him. Shawnee would do a job for you, no bother. I said, Shawnee, could you take out the watch? He said, Dalo, tell him put up his hand before we start backs and forwards and let the first 4 or 5 in high. I look after the watch. Well, springs, hands, they were found somewhere between Lerrig and Bannastrand. And that was the last we saw of Billy. So while I say dismiss no one, there's the odd Billy Byrne you'll have to lose, okay? Won't keep you all night, lads. Look, there's so much inside. Father Harry, you've all heard it before, Father Harry Bowen, great mentor of mine, great mentor of Clare people everywhere, great mentor of all people. A priest, that's a social worker, that's a saint. He constantly used the ship or the iceberg, the Titanic meeting the iceberg, and there was so much more within us all. And we as coaches have so much more within us all that we can give. And to stop the limiting beliefs, to think, oh no, that's us, we can't. Look, all you're tasked with is getting the best out of what's in front of you. Just get the best out of them. Results are results. One team will walk away with the cup every year. You might be lucky enough to be able to go down to the local, drink a few pints, take a few pats in the back. Realistically, be honest with yourself. If you can get the best out of what you're dealing with, and that they enjoy it, and you enjoy it. Limiting beliefs. I went to a couple of Clare games in 2013 because they were played on the Saturdays, the odd time, and Dublin played on a couple of Saturday nights, so I was able to go along to Cusick Park the following day, or vice versa. And Jesus, I'd go to the far side in Cusick Park with the ordinary people. People have their dinner in the middle of the day. And the amount of fellas when the short passing stuff was going on, as was the game plan, will you drive the ball in? And they go on bananas, pulling their hair out. Didn't apply here, obviously. But it's amazing to watch Donal O'Donovan's point in the All-Ireland final drawing game. A shortish puck out from Pa Kelly that I'm not sure who fumbled, but Pa O'Connor from Tubber picks up, gives a hurley pass, 25 yards, back towards his own goal almost to Nicky O'Connell, who broke a tackle, gave a hand pass to Donal O'Donovan. Now what he was doing there, no one has an idea. Who struck the most magnificent point, I suppose, Clare people will remember for a long time. But I know a lot of the faces from the far side in Cusack Park, and I met a lot of them in Jones's Road, in Mulligan's that night, across the road in the hotel, and they just delirious with joy. And will he drive it in? Was long since forgotten, because ultimately the victory was ours and it didn't matter how we won it. And I think a lot of people think like that. I wouldn't say, if the drive it in is your method, stick with your method. If that's what you believe, believe in it and go with it and play that way, and don't be hemmed into a corner by the way whoever wins. Jesus, in 1995, around January 1996, after 1995, I heard a horror story from a fella working in Shannon who told me he was working with a fella from Newmarket who had ran his under-12s up the hill in Shannon the night before, on the 14th of January. That happened. Like, lads, I think we stop aping people. We believe in what we believe in. Don't limit ourselves. Success leaves clues. I don't think, we only have to look at Sonia, how hard she worked. Why did she become one of the all-time greats? She worked hard. Kilkenny, since there's no one here, we can talk all about him. Kilkenny don't do tactics, let it in. Like, they were all saying last year that Clare changed hurling, but we went back to normal this year. Owen Larkin took more balls off the corner back this year, any of us that watched it closely, and he wearing number 13 or 15 on his back. Lads, success leaves clues. Have a good look. Don't be listening to the pub talk. Have a good look at what's going on. Talk to people in the know, talk to people, your peers that have another opinion, take it on board. I think that's a massive one, is the success everywhere. The All Blacks cleaning the bedrooms. Success leaves clues. Katie Taylor, does she bait the head off some lady she's leading 40-0? Or the lady she's beating 17-16? She does. She fights the very same way she fights her own fight. Success leaves clues. Control what you can control. Now, this is me on a solo run. You mightn't agree with this, right? But this is my opinion. I think somewhere along the way, you've learned an awful lot today, obviously. Vital stuff. I know the Arsenal lad from the academy, I was late because we were training, was brilliant. Everyone I met, including Michael O'Halloran, who's an ardent Arsenal fan, so I couldn't take his word for it. I had to get it off somebody else. Was brilliant. I know you've learned an awful lot of stuff, but lads, to me, the essence of hurling, I'm just going to talk about hurling. Football might be a bit different. Hurling and camogie, the essence of the shagging thing is to go out to the ball and go for every ball fearlessly. Without fear. Don't be held back. I call it the 90%, 10% rule. You could stretch it to 80, 20, 75, 25. The 25 being, maybe your strength and conditioning might be a vital part of that, obviously. Your stats, your diet, all that sort of stuff. Lads, you've got to be nearly hitting the 25% on that. The other 90, as I call it, is you won't hit 90, but you hit as near to 90 as you can hit. Let's not forget, it's about the drive. The biggest learning curve I ever had with that was 2012 with the Dubs. We'd won the league in 2011. We'd ran tip close here in the semi-final. We never trained harder. We trained at 6 o'clock in the morning down in Bray, quick bit to eat after work, gym that night. We never trained harder in the 6 years. We were pathetic down in Portlaoise against Kilkenny. We forgot that Tommy Walsh was going to go up and put up his hand for the ball, even though he mightn't have hit exactly what we had hit. He mightn't have trained at 6 in the morning, but by Jesus, when that schlitter was dropping, he was in the 90% zone. I don't think we should ever forget that. This is my opinion. Some of you will agree and disagree, but when the tail starts wagging the dog, lads, we're in trouble, I think. My opinion, you can take it on board if you don't want to, that's okay. But I think it's crucial that we remember the essence of what's played out there has always been the same. The game has evolved and changed, and we know that, but the essence is still the same. If you can't win your own ball and use that ball, you won't be winning anything. That's the bottom line. You won't be improving your players either. If they think drinking stuff before the session, vital and all as it is, or drinking it straight afterwards when we have the window, I know all about it, I've heard a lot about it, and we have that window, and I'm not saying that's not right, it's 100% right, but don't ever let that take over from the essence of making yourself available, looking for the ball, being a team player. That's the 90% as far as I'm concerned. Again, with a bit of help from a few brilliant people I've heard over the years, the best being ever, Jerry Duffy. You know Jerry, the man that ran 32 marathons, 32 days, the Deca Man. He won the Deca Man, which was a marathon. It was like an Ironman gone bananas. I think 40 of them started. He won it by about 14 hours over in England. He was the most inspirational speaker I've ever heard. And I know he's been involved in a couple of football teams. But he had the Dublin senior team locked on for 2.5 hours. I couldn't get him locked on for 20 minutes because of what he did. I do as I do, not as I say, I suppose. But from borrowing a bit of stuff from him and from what I look at myself, I just think it nearly sums up the ultimate success formula. Decide what you want. I mean, it mightn't be realistic for you to be the under-14 champions of Kilkenny, Dublin, Clare, Cork, Waterford, Tip, wherever. It mightn't be. But what do you want to do? Do you want to get the best out of those guys? Do you want to improve? You know, what do you want to do? Decide on that. Obviously take action. There's no use being below in the pub saying we're going to go awful hard this year now. We're going to give it everything. I have a good team around me. You got to take action. You got to train. You got to get them at it. Third one I think is vital. They're all A's, as you notice, for a reason, because equally as important. Third one, absolutely vital, because not enough of us take notice of what's working and what's not working until the end of the year. Aren't we great people for that? I'm the king of it. Oh Jesus, he'll have to go. That won't do. We'll have to change that. But it's too late at the end of the year. If it's not working during the year, change it. And I say the last thing, also huge, that small keys open big doors. You could look at that applies to life. I wound up in the Sunday game in 2007 and 2008 because I presented a set of medals in Galway, under 12 medals. I could have anything from a flu to a christening to a funeral to a wedding, not to go. But I went and I met a couple of people, and one thing led to another, and next thing I was talking shite with Cyril Farrell. As such. But lads, small keys open big doors is spending 5 minutes with the free taker after training, saying, come on, we'll hit 10 now under pressure. We'll hit 10. You've got to nail 8. And by God, maybe that September, you'll see him stepping up to that last free, and you'll say, I'll remember that night in June. So small keys, don't ever underestimate that little bit of work will open a whole pile of stuff for you. I won't be too much longer. I know everyone's anxious to hit the M50. I think there's loads more in us all, right? Talk is cheap. I'm talking shite up here. It's easy talk. I did a bit of work on this. It's easy talk about it. What I was doing this morning was doing. Getting up and leaving West Clare at 7:10 to be in Limerick for 8:10 to get going, to have a good session. That's the doing stuff. You're all doing that. And that's why you're here. You're the converted. And it's fantastic to be able to talk to converted. I'm not the most religious person in the world now. Sorry about all the fathers in the room, if there's any father, whoever. I don't know how many more lives we have. I'm 44, 45 even, for the last couple of months. Will I see another 45? Could be stretching it. This is our time alive, lads. Make the absolute most of it. I mean, most of us are finished playing. The bursary people obviously not, but an awful lot of us are finished playing. I mean, what can we give back? What can we do? We can do loads. We can do absolutely loads. We can do an awful lot. There's loads more in us all. And I think the one thing we have to appreciate is to have a massive attitude of gratitude. How lucky are we? How bloody lucky are we to be able to go to the field, put on the stopwatch and the whistle, take out our own hurley and show them, even though, but Jesus, I can't hit the 30 yards anymore. But you know, you can show them the grip. How lucky are we? We're blessed. I'm just going to show a little piece of video that I a lot of you would have seen it before. It's about Rick, the son, and Dick Hyatt, an American father and son. If you've seen it before, I've seen it about 150 times. Every day I'm in a lazy bollocks of a mood with a bit of a sick head in me, I put on the two boys and I get moving. And I think it could do us all good to have a quick look at it, about 6 minutes. There's a book, there's probably a Bible in lots of houses around the country. There's a book out there written by the great John O'Donoghue, who's no longer with us. It's called Benedictus. He has many books, but Benedictus, it should be in every house in Ireland because it's the most inspiring. There's something in it for every stage in your life, good, bad, or indifferent. There is something in that book for you. And I find it a great help to me at times. I don't pick it up every day, I don't pick it up every week, but by God, at times you could just pick it up and there's something there. And I suppose at the start of 2015, we're all facing out onto our various journeys, and this is a great time to kickstart. And we thank you all for being so attentive and listening to me and giving me the time and the attention. Thanking for Crow Park and Pat for asking me. Thank Liberty for sponsoring the event. But to finish with the words of the great poet, teacher, ex-priest, now deceased, all things to every man, John O'Donoghue, when he wrote the poem For a New Beginning. And it's just 2 verses from it. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the great promises that sameness whispered. Heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled and out you stepped onto new ground. Your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude open before you. Safe home everybody, lads. Thanks.